Peace is not a goal. You ever noticed how people talk about peace like it's some sort of distant treasure? We chase after it, thinking if we work hard enough, we can finally claim it as our own. Well, let me be blunt. Peace isn't a goal. It's not some distant island you sail toward and finally crash into, finding all your answers. No, peace is an ability, one that, if nurtured, can help you weather life's storms with a steady mind. Take a moment and think about all those people out there who claim they've found peace. Some of them might say they've got it all figured out. That peace just sort of fell into their lap after years of meditation or deep reflection. But the truth? It doesn't work like that. Peace is a skill, something you develop over time. And like any skill, it requires practice. Constant practice. Let's be real. We live in a world where peace is often elusive. Every day, you wake up to stress, chaos, noise, deadlines, and demands. It's like trying to find calm in a hurricane. But here's the thing. When we approach peace as a goal, we set ourselves up for disappointment. We constantly fall short of an ideal we've invented in our heads. So before you go chasing after a perfect, peaceful life, stop and think. What if peace isn't the end point, but the way we get through life? This isn't a new idea, either. Philosophers, thinkers, and even spiritual leaders throughout history have said that true peace doesn't come from external factors. It doesn't come from silencing the world around you. It comes from quieting the chaos within. And honestly, that's where the real work begins. Look, it's easy to say we want peace, but how many of us actually understand what that means in real life? It's not just about zoning out, doing yoga, or hiding away from the world. No, it's about living in the world and still finding a place of calm inside yourself. It's like being able to walk through the loudest, busiest street and still not losing your center. Think about it. Peace is more like a muscle that gets stronger with use. Sure, you might not be able to bench press 100 pounds the first time you try, but with time and patience, you'll get there. This doesn't mean you won't encounter storms in your life. You will. That's just the nature of being alive. What it does mean is that you'll be better equipped to deal with them. You'll have the ability to find peace when everything around you seems like it's falling apart. Peace doesn't require a dramatic life change or complete freedom from stress. It isn't about running away or shutting the world out. True peace is cultivated from within. It means staying grounded in the middle of the chaos, not waiting for the noise to disappear. It's not a destination, it's a daily practice. I know this might sound like a radical shift in how we think about peace, but isn't it kind of freeing when you realize you don't have to live up to some perfect, unattainable version of peace? Instead, you get to learn and grow, day by day, until the ability to stay peaceful is second nature. Now, let's pause for a second and look at what we're really saying here. Peace isn't something to be found. It's something to be practiced. The more you practice it, the easier it gets to find. And just like that, peace shifts from an impossible dream to a real, tangible skill. All it takes is the willingness to learn. The myth of perfect peace. Many of us believe that peace is a final destination, something we'll arrive at when everything falls into place. But this belief is misleading. The idea of perfect peace is more illusion than reality, a comforting concept we've grown attached to. In reality, peace isn't flawless stillness. It's learning how to move through chaos without losing yourself. It's not the absence of noise. It's the strength to be calm within it. Look around. Everyone's looking for that Zen moment, right? The one where everything slows down, where you feel like you're floating in this perfect, serene bubble where nothing can touch you. You see it on Instagram all the time. People meditating at sunrise, sitting on mountaintops, sipping herbal tea like they're one step away from nirvana. And sure, those moments are nice, but they're not the reality most of us experience. Life doesn't hand us perfect peace. It hands us chaos, confusion, and often frustration. So why is this such a big deal? Well, here's the thing. When we chase after this unrealistic ideal of perfect peace, we set ourselves up for failure. It's a trap. It's like running after a carrot dangling just out of reach, thinking that if we run faster or jump higher, we'll finally grab it. But in doing so, we forget the point entirely. The goal isn't to reach some perfect, peaceful state where nothing ever goes wrong. The goal is to find peace in the mess, in the imperfections. And believe me, life is full of imperfections. Perfect peace would mean that nothing in the world ever bothers you, that you never get upset, frustrated, or overwhelmed. But that's not how humans are wired. Our brains are designed to react to things, emotionally, physiologically, cognitively. We feel stress, joy, anger, and fear because these emotions serve important functions in our survival. So perfect peace? Well, that's about as real as a unicorn. Now, don't get me wrong. Peace, in its real form, is something we can absolutely cultivate. But it's a peace that exists alongside the noise, the mess, the unpredictability of life. It's about finding moments of stillness and calm within the storm, not eliminating the storm altogether. That's the secret most people miss. They're so focused on trying to eliminate all the things that disturb them, work stress, personal conflicts, the news, that they forget that peace can exist in spite of those things. Think of it like this. Imagine you're sitting in a room with a bunch of noisy people, and you're trying to concentrate on reading a book. It's annoying, right? But here's the twist. What if you could still read the book despite the noise? That's the kind of peace I'm talking about. It's not about blocking out the noise, but learning to live with it, to focus on what's important despite the distractions. The real question isn't how do I eliminate the noise, but how do I stay focused and calm even when it's there? And the truth is, when we accept that perfect peace is a myth, it's actually freeing. Because now we can let go of the pressure to be perfect, to feel calm all the time, and instead embrace the messiness of life. We can still be at peace, but it's a peace that's dynamic, evolving, and rooted in our ability to adapt, to accept, and to be okay with the fact that life is anything but predictable. Here's a fun fact to think about. Did you know that even in the most serene environments, your brain is still processing noise? Studies show that even in quiet places like forests or mountaintops, our brains pick up on tiny sounds, like the rustling of leaves or the hum of insects, that we might not even consciously hear. The point? Even the quietest places are never truly silent. The world is full of noise, literal and metaphorical. So, if peace can exist with the noise, that's the real victory. At the end of the day, perfect peace is a myth we've been taught to chase. But peace, real peace, comes not from the absence of disturbance, but from learning how to find stillness amid it all. How peace begins with inner conflict. Now let's get into something that sounds a little counterintuitive. Peace often begins with inner conflict. That's right. The very thing we tend to avoid, the internal battle, can actually be the catalyst for the peace we're looking for. I know it sounds strange. How could conflict possibly lead to peace, right? But let's break this down, because the truth is, without understanding and resolving inner conflict, peace will always remain just a nice idea, not a lived reality. Imagine for a second that you're dealing with two competing desires in your life. On one hand, you might feel this deep desire to settle down, to create stability, maybe even start a family. But on the other hand, there's this voice inside you saying, nope, you've got to be free. Travel, experience life without attachments. Both desires are valid, and they pull at you in opposite directions. It's uncomfortable, isn't it? This push and pull creates that internal chaos, the kind that makes your mind feel like it's constantly racing, unable to find peace. Now, instead of running away from this conflict, you lean into it. You sit with it. You start asking yourself the hard questions. Why do I feel torn? What do I truly want out of life? What is it that makes one choice feel right and the other feel wrong? This process of questioning and confronting your inner conflict allows you to gain clarity and insight, which is the first step in resolving it. Only once you fully understand the reasons behind the conflict can you make peace with it. Think about it this way. Conflict is like a red flag waving in your face, alerting you to areas of your life that need attention. Without that conflict, you might coast along, thinking everything is fine, but in reality, there are parts of you that haven't been fully acknowledged. It's only when you confront the inner contradictions that you can begin to integrate them into your overall sense of self. And from there, true peace can emerge. One of the biggest mistakes we make when dealing with inner conflict is trying to suppress it. We tell ourselves things like, I shouldn't feel this way, or I need to ignore this feeling and move on. But that only creates more internal friction, because those feelings don't just vanish. They bubble under the surface, creating a quiet, simmering storm inside you. Peace can't thrive in that environment. It needs honesty, clarity, and resolution. Studies have shown that self-awareness leads to lower stress and better mental health. People who regularly reflect on their emotions can navigate challenges more smoothly. In this way, reflection becomes more than a habit. It's a key to emotional resilience. So, if you're currently in the midst of an inner conflict, don't see it as something to avoid or suppress. See it as an opportunity for growth, an invitation to dig deeper into who you are. It's through resolving these conflicts that we discover a more integrated version of ourselves, and it's through that integration that peace emerges. Inner conflict, when handled with grace, can become the very foundation for lasting peace. That doesn't mean it's easy, though. It's not like you can snap your fingers and resolve deep internal struggles. But the more you practice leaning into the discomfort, the more you'll realize that peace isn't about escaping conflict. It's about learning to navigate it with awareness and understanding. The internal chaos doesn't disappear. Instead, you learn to find calm in the eye of the storm. And when you can do that, peace becomes more than just an aspiration. It becomes a living, breathing part of your life. Inner conflict is like the storm before the calm. It shakes things up, forces you to confront the messiness of your own mind, and in the process, creates space for peace to emerge. Instead of running from the tension, embrace it. In doing so, you'll find that peace doesn't come from avoiding conflict. It comes from resolving it with honesty, patience, and self-compassion. The role of patience in peace. Let's talk about something that's pretty essential to peace, but often gets overlooked: patience. We live in an age where everything is fast. Instant gratification is the name of the game. Want to talk to someone? Text them. Want information? Google it. Want to relax? Pop on Netflix, and bam, you're immediately entertained. But here's the thing. True peace doesn't work like that. Peace requires patience. It's not about rushing to a destination. It's about learning to be calm and present in the journey itself. Think about it. When you're impatient, everything feels like it's taking forever. You get restless, frustrated, and before you know it, that frustration starts to ripple out into every part of your life. You snap at people. You stress over deadlines. You start seeing obstacles instead of opportunities. And in that state of mind, peace? Well, it's nowhere to be found. Now I get it. Being patient is hard. We're wired for action, for progress. In a world that values productivity and efficiency, it's easy to feel like you're falling behind if you're not constantly moving. But patience doesn't mean inaction. It means allowing things to unfold at their own pace. It's the ability to let go of your need to control everything and trust that things will happen when they're supposed to, even if you can't see the full picture right now. Let's take a simple example. Waiting in line at the grocery store. Sure, it's annoying. You've got places to be, things to do. But in that moment, you can either stew in frustration, checking your watch every few seconds, or you can practice patience. Take a deep breath, let go of your urge to hurry, and just be present. That's where the peace lies, in accepting the present moment, no matter how inconvenient or frustrating it may seem. You're not waiting for peace to come in the future, you're allowing it to be with you right now. Patience, at its core, is about trust. It's about trusting that everything will unfold as it should, in its own time. And that doesn't just apply to waiting in line. It applies to everything: your career, your relationships, your personal growth. Peace doesn't come from constantly striving, constantly pushing. It comes from knowing when to let go, to breathe, and to trust that things are happening as they should. Patience does more than help you wait. It reshapes how you handle life. Studies show patient people are calmer, happier, and better at weathering setbacks. When you stop seeing delays as problems, you start seeing them as part of the journey, and peace follows. Patience is also essential for understanding others. Think about how often we rush to judgment. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and immediately, you're angry. Someone says something you don't agree with, and boom, you're ready to argue. But patience allows you to take a step back, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to wait and see things from their perspective. It's that moment of pause, the choice to withhold judgment, that creates space for peace to blossom. I know it's tempting to want everything now. It's easy to want results, to see progress, to feel like you're moving forward all the time. But true peace is found in the moments when you step back, breathe, and allow things to unfold in their own time. It's not about rushing to the finish line. It's about learning to enjoy the journey, even when it feels slow or uncertain. So, the next time you're stuck in traffic or waiting for a big decision, take a breath. Remind yourself that peace doesn't need to come in a hurry. It's in the waiting, the trusting, the letting go of control. Patience is the art of peace, and without it, peace will always be something you're chasing, never something you're truly experiencing. Patience isn't just a virtue. It's the very foundation of peace. When you can be patient with yourself, with others, and with life, peace is no longer a far-off goal. It's a present, living, breathing reality that's with you in every moment. And isn't that what we're really after? Not the perfect moment, but the ability to experience peace in all moments, no matter how they unfold. Peace in the midst of chaos. So, we've talked about inner conflict, patience, and self-awareness. But there's one thing we need to address that's perhaps the most challenging. How do you maintain peace when everything around you feels like it's falling apart? When your world is chaos, when the stress is overwhelming, when life throws you curveballs that seem impossible to dodge, how do you hold on to your peace? Here's the truth. Chaos is a given. It's inevitable. No matter how much you try to control your environment, life has a funny way of throwing things at you when you least expect it. But here's the key. Peace isn't about waiting for the chaos to stop. It's about learning how to maintain calm in the middle of it. Let's imagine a real-life scenario. You've got a major project at work, a looming deadline. Your phone's blowing up with notifications, and your family is in crisis. Maybe someone's sick, or there's an argument you can't avoid. Everything feels urgent, and you're spiraling into that state of everything's falling apart. This is where the magic of peace comes into play, not when things are easy, but when they're tough. In these moments, the best thing you can do is not panic. I know, it sounds easier said than done. But hear me out. When we panic, we react. We let our emotions take control. We make rash decisions, snap at people, or maybe even freeze up and do nothing. But peace, real peace, is the ability to step back and respond, not react. It's about taking a deep breath, pausing before you speak or act, and remembering that you don't have to solve everything right now. It's about remembering that, even in chaos, you're still in control of your emotional response. You can't control everything that's happening around you, but you can control how you respond. That, right there, is peace. It's knowing that you can sit with the storm and not be swept away by it. Now, there's an interesting fact here. Studies in neuropsychology show that when we're stressed, our brain shifts into what's called fight or flight mode, which essentially hijacks our ability to think clearly. But the moment you take a pause, breathe, and ground yourself, your brain shifts back into a calmer state where rational thinking can take place. The more you practice this in moments of chaos, the quicker your body and mind will learn to respond to stress with calm instead of panic. Over time, your ability to stay peaceful under pressure will become second nature. Think of it like this. Imagine a tree in the middle of a storm. The wind howls, the rain pours down, the branches sway wildly. But the tree doesn't freak out. It doesn't try to fight the wind. Instead, it stays rooted. It might bend, it might sway, but it doesn't break. That's what peace looks like in chaos. It's not about remaining completely unshaken. It's about staying grounded no matter what the storm throws at you. In practical terms, this might look like taking a moment to step outside and breathe when you're overwhelmed, or pausing to ask yourself what you can control in the moment and what you need to let go of. It might mean setting boundaries with the people around you or finding small ways to restore balance in the midst of chaos, like taking breaks, practicing mindfulness, or simply saying, "Hey, I need a minute." But here's the thing. Peace in chaos doesn't mean you won't feel the weight of stress. It doesn't mean you'll never get overwhelmed or anxious. But it means that those feelings no longer control you. You're able to experience them, acknowledge them, and still choose to remain calm and centered. And that's where true peace comes in, not in the absence of chaos, but in the ability to exist within it, without losing yourself. So, the next time life feels like it's spinning out of control, take a breath. Remember, peace isn't about making everything perfect. It's about finding balance in the middle of the mess. And when you learn to do that, you'll discover that peace isn't something you wait for. It's something you carry with you, no matter how chaotic things may get. Empathy as a pathway to peace. If there's one thing that can make a world of difference in your peace, It's empathy. Let's pause for a second and really think about this. How many times have you gotten upset with someone, whether it's a partner, a colleague, or a random stranger, only to realize later that you were missing a key piece of the puzzle? That missing piece was often the other person's perspective. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of another, is the bridge to peace, both within ourselves and in our relationships with others. We all see the world through our own unique lens. Our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions shape how we perceive situations and other people. But when we're stuck in our own perspective, we miss the opportunity to connect with others on a deeper level. And when we fail to connect, that's when conflict arises. But empathy? Empathy allows us to step out of ourselves, to see the world through someone else's eyes, and to understand not just what they're doing, but why they're doing it. And that understanding? That's where peace can begin. Think about a time when you were frustrated with someone. Maybe a friend was late for a meeting, or a colleague was unresponsive. The initial reaction might have been irritation or anger. But what if, instead of reacting, you paused and asked yourself, what might be going on for them right now? Maybe your friend was dealing with an unexpected crisis, or your colleague was struggling with personal issues. Empathy opens up a space where you're no longer seeing the person as an obstacle, but as a fellow human being with their own experiences, struggles, and challenges. And that shift in perspective, it can defuse a lot of potential conflict. Now, empathy is not the same as sympathy. Sympathy is when you feel bad for someone, but empathy is when you genuinely understand what they're going through and feel with them. It's not about feeling sorry for them. It's about connecting with their emotions on a deeper level. When you cultivate empathy, you develop the ability to hold space for others, without judgment or frustration. This, in turn, creates an environment where peace can flourish, because empathy removes the walls that divide us. Let's take a look at this from a scientific perspective. Research in emotional intelligence has shown that people with higher empathy levels experience less interpersonal conflict and have stronger, more positive relationships. Why? Because empathy allows them to understand the underlying emotions of others and respond in ways that foster connection and peace. When you can understand where someone else is coming from, you're less likely to snap or react impulsively. Instead, you can engage with them in a way that's grounded, calm, and thoughtful. Empathy also works wonders for self-peace. When you're able to empathize with others, you create a sense of community and belonging. You realize that you're not alone in your struggles and that others are navigating similar challenges. This shared experience creates a sense of connection and support, which contributes to your own peace of mind. Plus, empathy fosters a culture of kindness and understanding. The more you practice it, the more peaceful your interactions with others will become, which, in turn, reflects back on your own emotional state. One of the coolest things about empathy is that it doesn't require perfection, it just requires effort. Even small gestures, like listening more attentively, asking someone how they're feeling, or offering a kind word when someone's struggling, can create a ripple effect of peace. In fact, it's often the little things that make the biggest impact. When you approach others with empathy, you're not just helping them, you're helping yourself, too. Research highlights that patience improves emotional regulation, enhances resilience, and reduces stress. It changes our perception of setbacks, from obstacles to learning experiences, opening the door to lasting inner peace. Being patient helps you stay calm, bounce back quicker, and feel less overwhelmed. It turns everyday problems into chances to grow, and that shift brings real peace of mind. So, next time you're in a situation where you feel frustrated, pause and ask yourself, what's going on for this person? Put yourself in their shoes and really try to understand their perspective. And in doing so, you'll unlock a level of peace that doesn't just benefit you, it benefits everyone around you. Empathy is the pathway to peace because it creates understanding, connection, and compassion. It allows us to dissolve conflict and build stronger, more harmonious relationships. And the best part? It's something we can all cultivate, no matter where we are in life. The more we practice empathy, the more peace we create, not just in the world, but within ourselves as well. Releasing the need for control. One of the hardest but most essential steps toward peace is learning to let go of the need to control everything. Now, this is a big one, because control feels safe. It feels secure. When we control things, whether it's our schedule, our environment, or even the people around us. We get the illusion of order, of predictability. But the reality? Control is often an illusion itself. And when we cling to it too tightly, it can actually rob us of the peace we crave. Think about it. We all want things to go according to plan. We want our day to unfold in a certain way. We want people to act in predictable patterns, and we want life to be neat and tidy. But as we all know, life doesn't care about our plans. It has a way of throwing curveballs that derail even the best-laid schedules. And when we hold on too tightly to that need for control, it only leads to frustration, anxiety, and, eventually, a loss of peace. Imagine you're working on a project at work, and everything is going perfectly until something goes wrong. Maybe a colleague makes a mistake, or the technology fails at the last minute. Your first instinct might be to fix everything, to exert your control over the situation. But what happens when you can't fix it right away? The frustration builds, and peace slips further out of reach. The key here is learning to release the need to control every single aspect of your life. When you allow space for things to unfold on their own, you free yourself from the constant pressure to control every outcome. Here's where the real shift happens. Peace doesn't come from controlling your surroundings or your circumstances. It comes from learning how to adapt to them. It's not about forcing the world to bend to your will, but rather finding comfort in the unknown, in the unpredictable. Letting go of control means embracing uncertainty and accepting that you can't always predict or manipulate every situation. When you do this, you stop fighting reality, and peace can finally take root. This might sound like a scary idea. Releasing control feels like stepping into the unknown, like leaving yourself vulnerable to whatever might happen next. But here's the paradox. The more you try to control everything, the less control you actually have. When you let go, you begin to flow with life instead of against it. And in that flow, peace is found. It's not about avoiding challenges, but learning how to handle them with grace and calm. Let me give you a real-life example. Have you ever been stuck in traffic, knowing you're going to be late? It's one of the most frustrating situations because you can't control the traffic, yet you still try to. You might grit your teeth, check your watch, or even start getting upset with every car that's moving too slowly. But what happens when you stop trying to control the situation and just accept that you're stuck in traffic? Instead of spiraling into anger, you find a way to relax. Maybe you listen to music, take a deep breath, or use the time to reflect on something else. In that moment, you've released your need to control the situation, and in doing so, you've created space for peace. With patience, the noise quiets. You breathe deeper, rise stronger, and see challenges as lessons, not threats. That's where peace begins. This doesn't mean that you should just give up on everything and live in a state of chaos, of course. There's a balance to be found. Releasing control isn't about throwing your hands up and resigning yourself to whatever happens. It's about choosing where to focus your energy and where to allow life to unfold naturally. It's about knowing that not everything needs your intervention, and that sometimes the best thing you can do is step back and let things work themselves out. Letting go of control is also about trust. It's trusting that, even if things don't go according to your plan, they will still work out in some way. Trust that life has a way of guiding you, even when it doesn't seem to be following the script you wrote. And when you trust the process, peace follows. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't need to control the outcome. You just need to be open to whatever comes next, and that openness is where peace resides. So, take a step back and ask yourself, what are you trying to control right now that's causing you stress or anxiety? What would happen if you just let go of that control and allowed things to unfold? It's not about being passive, it's about being present. When you stop fighting for control, you create space for peace to enter your life. And trust me, that's one of the most liberating feelings there is. The power of silence. Silence. It's something we often overlook, but it might just be one of the most powerful tools we have in our pursuit of peace. In a world filled with noise, constant chatter, traffic, notifications, and distractions, silence has become a rare commodity. And yet, it's in silence that we often find the peace we're desperately searching for. But how do we unlock the power of silence in a world that never stops talking? First, let's talk about what silence really is. It's not just the absence of sound. It's the absence of external distractions, a space where your mind can truly rest. Silence allows us to disconnect from the noise around us and reconnect with ourselves. It's in these moments of stillness that we can hear our own thoughts clearly, without the interference of external chatter. And when we listen to our own thoughts, we can begin to understand what's really going on inside our heads, why we're stressed, why we're anxious, why we're feeling overwhelmed. Silence gives us the space to process our emotions, to reflect on our lives, and ultimately, to find peace within ourselves. In a world that encourages us to always be on, to always be doing something, silence can feel uncomfortable. It can feel like an empty void, something that needs to be filled. But silence isn't empty. It's full of potential. It's in silence that we can hear the whispers of our inner voice, guiding us toward the peace we're looking for. Think about it. When was the last time you truly experienced silence? I don't mean the kind of silence where you're just waiting for the next noise to fill the space. I mean real, genuine silence. The kind where you can hear your breath, feel the stillness in your body, and let your mind wander without interruption. For most of us, it's rare. But it's in those moments that peace can settle in, like a soft blanket wrapping around you, creating a sense of calm and clarity. Now, here's something that might surprise you. Studies show that silence has a significant impact on our mental health. It's been found that even just a few minutes of silence can reduce stress, lower blood pressure, and improve focus. In fact, researchers have discovered that silence activates areas of the brain that are linked to relaxation and emotional regulation. So, in a way, silence is like a reset button for our minds, a way to press pause on the chaos and give ourselves the space we need to breathe, reflect, and find balance. But here's the thing. Silence doesn't have to be long or grandiose. It doesn't require you to retreat to a mountaintop or spend hours meditating. It can be as simple as taking a few minutes in the morning before your day starts, sitting quietly with your thoughts, or stepping outside for a brief moment to just be still. The key is allowing yourself that time to disconnect from the noise and connect with the quiet that exists within you. In a world that constantly demands our attention, choosing silence is an act of rebellion. It's a way of saying, I don't need to be constantly occupied to find peace. And when you make space for silence, you create the opportunity for peace to enter your life in ways you didn't expect. In that quiet, you find clarity. You find understanding. You find the peace that's been waiting for you all along. When you learn to be patient, everything starts to slow down in the best way. The noise of urgency and comparison fades. You breathe deeper, you stop rushing, and suddenly, what once seemed overwhelming feels more manageable. You begin to see setbacks not as roadblocks, but as steps on your path. And in that moment, peace isn't something you chase. It's something that naturally arrives. Silence isn't just about not making noise. It's about creating the space for peace to emerge. It's about embracing stillness in a world that's always moving, always speaking, always demanding your attention. And when you take the time to experience silence, you'll realize that peace isn't a destination. It's a state of being. It's something you can access anytime, simply by tuning out the noise and tuning into yourself. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed or disconnected, take a moment to embrace silence. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let the quiet envelop you. In that silence, you'll find peace, not the kind that comes from controlling the world around you, but the kind that comes from letting go and simply being. And in that space, you'll discover the peace that has always been within you. Facing fear with calm. Let's talk about something that's a huge roadblock on the path to peace. Fear. We all know that feeling, whether it's a small anxiety or a full-blown terror, that grips us and threatens to take over. Fear can come from so many places. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown, or even the fear of what might happen tomorrow. But here's the truth. Fear and peace aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, learning to face fear with calm is one of the most powerful ways to cultivate true peace in your life. I know, when you're scared, the last thing you want to do is calmly face it. It's way easier to run from it, avoid it, or ignore it. But avoiding fear only gives it more power. The more you resist it, the stronger it becomes. Fear thrives on uncertainty, on the unknown, and the more you try to push it away, the more it grows in your mind. Peace, on the other hand, comes from confronting that fear, looking it in the face, and choosing to remain calm in the midst of it. Let's start with a simple example. You're about to give a presentation, and your heart is racing, your palms are sweating, and your mind is telling you that everything is going to go wrong. Sound familiar? In those moments, the instinct is to panic, to try to control every little detail, to avoid the discomfort of being in the spotlight. But what if, instead of running from the fear, you simply allowed it to be there? What if you acknowledged the fear and told yourself, it's okay to be scared, but I can still do this? When you accept fear instead of fighting it, you create space for peace. You recognize that fear is just an emotion. It's not a threat. It's just a signal. And when you stop seeing fear as something to be avoided or defeated, you realize that it doesn't have the power to control you. Instead of letting fear dictate your actions, you can choose how to respond to it. And in that moment of choice, peace is born. Fear is often misunderstood. We're taught to see it as weakness, a sign to retreat. But in truth, fear is a messenger, a spark that wakes the body and sharpens the mind. When harnessed, it can push you into clarity and precision. What if, instead of resisting fear, you invited it in and asked what it wants to teach you? That shift, seeing fear as a signal, not a stop sign, can be the beginning of strength. But let's be real here. This isn't something that happens overnight. It's not like you can just flip a switch and suddenly be calm in the face of fear. No, it takes practice. It takes a willingness to sit with discomfort and learn from it, rather than running away. The more you practice facing fear with calm, the more you build resilience, and the more peace becomes a natural response, even in the most nerve-wracking situations. One of the best ways to practice this is through mindfulness. Mindfulness is about being fully present in the moment, without judgment. When you're mindful, you acknowledge your fear, but you don't let it take over. You simply observe it, like a wave passing through you, and let it pass. You don't hold on to it. You don't try to push it away. You just let it be, and as you do, you create space for calm to enter. Now, that doesn't mean fear will magically disappear. Far from it. Fear is a natural part of being human. But what changes is how you relate to it. Instead of letting fear dictate your actions and thoughts, you learn to coexist with it. You learn that fear doesn't define you, and it certainly doesn't have the power to rob you of peace unless you let it. Think of fear like a storm. It might be loud, it might be intense, but storms don't last forever. They move through, and once they pass, the calm returns. Fear works in much the same way. It might show up unexpectedly, but it doesn't have to stay. And when you learn to face it with calm, you allow the storm to pass, and peace returns. Facing fear with calm doesn't mean you're never scared. It means you don't let your fear control your life. You embrace it, learn from it, and move forward in spite of it. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes, and the more peace you'll experience in the face of fear. You'll stop avoiding fear and start living alongside it, knowing that you have the ability to navigate it with grace and calm. So, the next time fear shows up, don't run from it. Don't let it paralyze you. Acknowledge it, accept it, and take a deep breath. You have the power to choose your response, and in that choice, you'll find the peace you've been looking for all along. Building peace through relationships. Let's take a moment to talk about the role relationships play in our pursuit of peace. Now, I know relationships can be complicated. Sometimes they lift us up, and other times they bring us down. But here's the kicker. Building peace in your life is impossible without peace in your relationships. We are social creatures, after all, and how we interact with others has a profound effect on our own inner peace. So, if you want to cultivate peace in your life, you need to start by building peaceful connections with those around you. Think about the people in your life right now. Your family, friends, coworkers, acquaintances. How do those relationships affect your peace? If you're being honest with yourself, you probably realize that when your relationships are in turmoil, your own sense of peace can be the first thing to go. Whether it's an argument with a friend, a falling out with a colleague, or tension with a family member, unresolved conflict has a sneaky way of eating away at your peace. But here's the thing. Peaceful relationships aren't about avoiding conflict. They're about knowing how to handle it when it inevitably arises. In any relationship, disagreements and misunderstandings are going to happen. People are messy, and sometimes we hurt each other without even realizing it. But when you build your relationships on a foundation of mutual respect, understanding, and empathy, you create an environment where conflict can be addressed in a healthy way. Instead of letting arguments spiral into resentment or silence, you have the tools to navigate them with grace, so they don't steal your peace. Let's look at a common example, the disagreement. Maybe you and a close friend or family member have different opinions on something, and what starts as a simple conversation turns into a full-blown argument. In these moments, it's easy to get caught up in being right. You want to prove your point, defend your stance, and win the argument. But here's the catch. Peace doesn't come from being right. It comes from understanding. It comes from being willing to listen to the other person, to see where they're coming from, and to work together toward a resolution, rather than focusing on winning or being heard above all else. In relationships, peace isn't about silencing your voice. It's about learning to listen just as much as you speak. It's about practicing empathy, where you try to understand the other person's feelings and perspective, even if you don't agree with them. This doesn't mean you have to compromise your beliefs or opinions, but it does mean respecting that the other person is entitled to theirs. The more you practice this, the more peace you'll cultivate in your relationships. The best relationships are built on understanding, not agreement. Think about your closest friends or family members. Do you agree on everything? Probably not. But you understand each other's perspectives, and that understanding allows for peace to thrive, even in disagreement. This doesn't mean that conflict won't arise. Of course it will. But it means that when it does, you have the tools to handle it without letting it tear your relationship apart or rob you of your peace. A great way to start building peaceful relationships is by setting healthy boundaries. Boundaries are not about building walls. They're about creating a space where both you and the other person can feel safe, respected, and heard. When you establish boundaries, you're communicating your needs and your limits in a way that fosters mutual respect. And when both parties respect those boundaries, peace naturally follows. Another way to nurture peaceful relationships is through forgiveness. Holding on to grudges or harboring resentment can poison a relationship over time. It's like holding a grudge is holding on to a hot coal. It doesn't hurt the other person. It only burns you. Forgiveness doesn't mean you have to forget or condone what happened. It means letting go of the emotional weight that comes with holding on to past hurt. And when you forgive, you free yourself and your relationships from the burden of anger and resentment, allowing peace to take root. Now, let's talk about something else, how we communicate. Communication is at the heart of every relationship, and when it's done poorly, it can create misunderstandings, misinterpretations, and conflict. But when communication is open, honest, and respectful, it becomes a bridge to understanding and peace. Think about the times when you've had a disagreement with someone, and instead of listening, you both just talked over each other. It's frustrating, right? Neither side feels heard, and peace is nowhere in sight. But when you take the time to listen, when you give the other person the space to express themselves fully before responding, it shifts the dynamic completely. Here's an important thing to remember. Peaceful relationships don't happen by accident. They take work. They take effort. They take patience. But when you invest in building peace with the people around you, you'll see the benefits ripple out into every area of your life. Peace in your relationships doesn't just make you feel good. It creates a sense of community, support, and connection that nourishes your soul. Research shows that people with supportive, peaceful relationships tend to have better mental and physical health. It's true. Strong, harmonious connections not only make you feel good emotionally, but they also have tangible benefits for your overall well-being. So, in a way, peace in your relationships is not just a nice-to-have. It's essential to your health and happiness. So, if you want to cultivate lasting peace in your life, start with your relationships. Practice empathy, listen more than you speak, set healthy boundaries, and most importantly, be willing to forgive. As you build peace with others, you'll find that peace within yourself becomes stronger, more resilient, and more sustainable. And when you surround yourself with peaceful, understanding people, your own peace will flourish, no matter what's happening in the world around you. Peace and personal responsibility. When we think about peace, we often focus on external factors, calming our environment, reducing stress, avoiding conflict. But what if I told you that one of the most important aspects of peace actually starts with you? I'm talking about personal responsibility, the ability to take ownership of your own actions, thoughts, and emotions is a cornerstone of peace. Without it, we can easily become victims of our circumstances blaming others or the world around us for our lack of peace. But when we own our part in creating the chaos in our lives, we gain the power to change it and restore peace. Personal responsibility is not about blaming yourself or beating yourself up for mistakes. It's about acknowledging that you have control over how you respond to situations and that your choices shape your experience of the world. Peace comes not from the absence of conflict or stress, but from the ability to navigate those challenges with clarity, wisdom, and grace. And that all starts with taking responsibility for your own actions, reactions, and mindset. Think about a situation in which you felt upset or out of control. Maybe you had an argument with a friend or colleague, and the emotions ran high. It's easy to blame the other person, to think, they made me angry, or they're the ones who started this mess. But here's the catch. When you shift from blaming others to accepting responsibility for your own reactions, you take back the power to choose how you handle the situation. You realize that you don't have to let someone else's actions dictate your peace. This is where the magic happens. When you take responsibility for how you show up in the world, you no longer wait for others to change before you feel peace. You no longer depend on external circumstances to determine your emotional state. You become the architect of your own peace, because you realize that peace isn't dependent on anyone or anything other than your ability to stay grounded, centered, and calm in the face of life's challenges. Personal responsibility also means owning your mistakes, your missteps, and your imperfections. It's about acknowledging when you've hurt someone, when you've made a poor choice, or when you've fallen short of your own standards. And instead of avoiding or denying it, you take responsibility for it and work to make things right. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It means you're willing to learn from your mistakes and grow from them, instead of letting them fester and steal your peace. Here's something that might be a little hard to swallow. If you want peace, you have to stop blaming your past, your upbringing, or other people for where you are in life. Yes, we all face challenges, and some things are beyond our control. But how you respond to those challenges is up to you. And once you own that power, you reclaim your peace. The world might throw obstacles in your path, but you can choose how to navigate them. And that choice, that responsibility, is the key to lasting peace. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're stuck in a job you don't like, or you're in a relationship that's not fulfilling. It's easy to blame your circumstances, to think that if only your boss or your partner would change, things would be better. But what if you shifted your perspective? What if you took responsibility for your own happiness and began looking at what you can do to improve the situation? Maybe it's having a difficult conversation with your boss, setting new boundaries with your partner, or even making the decision to walk away from a toxic situation. Personal responsibility isn't about staying stuck. It's about taking charge of your life and making choices that align with your peace and well-being. A huge part of personal responsibility is taking responsibility for your emotional state. This means not allowing external circumstances to dictate your mood. It means recognizing when you're spiraling into stress or anxiety and making the conscious choice to step back and recalibrate. It's about knowing that your peace is within your control and you have the tools to shift your mindset whenever you need to. This isn't to say that life won't challenge you. Of course it will. But when you take responsibility for your reactions and choices, you shift from a place of powerlessness to a place of empowerment. You realize that no one else can take your peace away unless you let them. The more you practice this, the more resilient your peace becomes, because you are no longer reliant on others to maintain it. Research in psychology shows that people who take personal responsibility for their lives, who acknowledge their role in both their successes and their struggles, tend to experience greater mental well-being. They are more likely to report feeling in control of their lives, and they tend to have stronger relationships, more satisfying careers, and better overall happiness. The reason? Taking ownership of your life gives you the confidence and clarity to navigate challenges with a calm mind, instead of being swept up by external circumstances. The bottom line is this: peace starts with you. It starts with taking responsibility for your own actions, emotions, and choices. When you stop waiting for others to change or for the world to become perfect, you free yourself from the illusion of control, and in doing so, you create the space for peace to flourish. Personal responsibility isn't about blaming yourself. It's about owning your power and your ability to create peace, no matter what's happening around you. The influence of nature on peace. Let's take a step outside for a moment. Seriously, Imagine yourself standing in the middle of a forest, or perhaps sitting by the edge of the ocean, or walking through a quiet park on a crisp morning. There's something almost magical about being in nature, isn't there? It's like the world slows down, and in that stillness, a sense of peace settles over you. The gentle rustling of leaves, the rhythmic crashing of waves, the fresh air, all of these simple natural elements seem to have an almost instant calming effect on us. And if you've ever felt this way, you're not imagining it. Nature has a profound influence on our peace of mind, and here's why. First off, there's something uniquely grounding about nature. In a world that's full of distractions, constantly pinged by emails, texts, social media updates, and 1,000 other things demanding our attention, nature offers us an opportunity to unplug, to reconnect with something timeless, something that doesn't require us to do anything except be. And in that being, peace naturally follows. The more time we spend in natural spaces, the more we tap into a sense of balance and calm that we often can't find in our daily lives. Let's talk about what happens physiologically when we step into nature. Studies have shown that spending time in natural environments can lower our stress hormones, like cortisol, and boost our mood by increasing the production of serotonin, the feel-good neurotransmitter. This is why a walk in the park or a hike in the mountains can make you feel lighter, clearer, and more peaceful. Nature doesn't just calm the mind. It has the power to physically reset your body, helping you return to a more peaceful state, both mentally and emotionally. You might not think a walk in the woods could change your brain, but science says otherwise. In Japan, researchers discovered that forest bathing, the simple act of mindfully walking through trees, can lower blood pressure and reduce anxiety. The secret? Trees release natural compounds called phytoncides, which calm your nervous system and boost your immune response. So next time life feels overwhelming, maybe the best remedy isn't a screen, but some leaves and silence. But even if you're not surrounded by forests, nature still has the same calming effect. The beach, a garden, a quiet lake, all of these natural environments offer the same benefits. The sound of running water, the wind in your hair, the scent of earth and trees. These things are like a balm for your soul. They remind you of the simple rhythms of life, of a time before everything became so hectic and fast-paced. It's in nature that we're reminded of the peace that exists when we stop trying to control everything and just allow ourselves to exist within the world as it is. But nature doesn't just offer peace when you're actively out in it. Even just looking at a scene from nature, a picture of a calm ocean or a forest clearing, has been shown to reduce stress. That's the power of nature. It has the ability to restore and rejuvenate, whether you're actively engaged with it or simply observing it from a distance. And in today's busy world, even just taking a moment to look out the window, noticing the sky, the trees, the birds flying by, can help you reconnect with that feeling of peace. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. That all sounds great, but I don't always have the time or the ability to get out into nature. Fair point. But here's the thing. Nature doesn't always have to be something grand or far away. It's in the small moments, too. The way the sunlight filters through your window in the morning, the sound of birds outside your door, the scent of rain, or the feel of a cool breeze on your skin. Peace doesn't require an exotic retreat or hours in the wilderness. It's about opening yourself up to the simple, natural beauty that exists around you, no matter where you are. It's easy to forget that healing doesn't always come from medicine or screens. Sometimes, it comes from the quiet rustle of leaves. In Japan, the practice of forest bathing has been shown to calm anxiety, lower blood pressure, and strengthen your immune system. The secret lies in phytoncides, natural compounds trees release to help you breathe easier and think clearer. So maybe what you need isn't more noise, but a walk among the trees. Another aspect of nature's calming effect is that it encourages mindfulness. When you're surrounded by nature, it's harder to think about the endless to-do lists or the stressors of daily life. Nature invites you to be present, to observe what's around you, to listen to the wind or the waves, to feel the textures of the earth beneath your feet. This practice of being present in the moment is a key component of peace. It helps you step away from the constant mental chatter and just be. In a world where we're often caught up in doing, nature reminds us that there's beauty in simply existing. It offers us the space to breathe, to reflect, to pause. And when we take the time to slow down and absorb the peace that nature has to offer, we can carry that peace with us when we return to the hustle and bustle of everyday life. So, here's the challenge for you. Try to spend more time in nature. Whether it's a walk in the park, a hike in the woods, or just sitting by a window and appreciating the beauty around you. Allow nature to be a source of peace in your life. And the more you do, the more you'll realize that peace is never far from you. It's just a matter of reconnecting with the natural world and letting its calming energy wash over you. Maintaining peace in a changing world. The world is constantly changing, and that's a fact we can't escape. Whether it's shifting societal norms, advancing technology, political upheavals, or global crises, change is inevitable. And yet, peace is often seen as something that comes from stability. So, how do you maintain peace when everything around you seems to be in flux, when the ground beneath your feet feels uncertain? The key here is adaptability. Peace isn't something that exists in a static, unchanging environment. It's something that we create within ourselves, and that's why it can survive even in times of great change. When you learn to embrace change rather than resist it, you shift your perspective from one of fear and anxiety to one of calm and resilience. You realize that while you can't control the pace or direction of change, you can control how you respond to it. Let's start with a simple example. You're going through a major life transition. Maybe you're changing careers, moving to a new city, or dealing with a relationship shift. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, to panic, to try to hold on to what's familiar. But what if, instead of trying to resist the change, you accepted it as part of your journey? Change doesn't have to be a threat to your peace. In fact, it can be an opportunity for growth, for learning, and for finding new sources of peace within yourself. Think about it. Life is a constant series of transitions. Whether we're growing, evolving, or simply navigating the ups and downs of daily life, change is always happening. And rather than seeing it as something to fear, we can learn to approach it with curiosity and openness. The more you practice accepting change as a natural part of life, the more peace you'll find in the midst of it. But that doesn't mean it's always easy. There are times when change is hard, when it feels like the world is moving too fast, or when the changes you're experiencing are uncomfortable or painful. In those moments, it's easy to slip into stress or anxiety. But here's where peace comes in. When you accept that change is a constant, you begin to understand that discomfort is just a temporary part of the process. Nothing stays the same forever. And that knowledge gives you the strength to weather the storm, knowing that change will eventually lead you to a new place of peace. A huge part of maintaining peace in a changing world is learning to stay present. When everything around you is in flux, it's easy to get lost in worries about the future or regrets about the past. But peace is always found in the present moment. By focusing on the here and now, you can reduce the mental clutter that often accompanies change. Take a deep breath, ground yourself in the present, and remind yourself that the only thing you can control is how you respond to what's happening in this moment. According to numerous studies, mindfulness enhances our ability to adapt in the face of change. By training ourselves to stay fully present, we reduce anxiety, improve emotional regulation, and increase psychological flexibility. In uncertain times, this grounded awareness becomes a quiet strength, an inner compass that leads us toward peace, not panic. The ability to stay grounded in the face of change doesn't mean you have to be immune to emotions. Change can bring up all kinds of feelings: fear, sadness, excitement, confusion. And that's okay. Emotions are a natural part of the human experience. But peace doesn't mean suppressing those emotions. It means acknowledging them and choosing how to respond to them. Instead of letting your emotions control you, you learn to observe them, to sit with them, and to allow them to pass, knowing that you're still in control of your actions and mindset. Maintaining peace in a changing world also means letting go of the need for perfection. Change can sometimes make us feel like we need to have everything figured out, like we need to know exactly what's coming next. But the truth is, no one has all the answers. Life is messy and unpredictable, and that's part of what makes it beautiful. When you let go of the need for certainty and control, you make space for peace to flow in, even when things feel uncertain. One of the best ways to stay peaceful amid change is by embracing flexibility. Flexibility doesn't mean giving up on your goals or values. It means being open to adjusting your approach when necessary. Life is full of surprises, and sometimes the path you thought you were on will shift in unexpected ways. Instead of resisting those shifts, learn to flow with them. When you're flexible, you open yourself up to new possibilities and experiences, and you release the pressure to control every outcome. Maybe you've been working toward a big promotion or career change, and suddenly, circumstances shift. Maybe the opportunity falls through, or the timeline changes unexpectedly. It's easy to feel discouraged or frustrated. But what if, instead of seeing this as a setback, you saw it as a redirection? Maybe this change is giving you the opportunity to explore something new, to grow in a different direction, or to refine your goals. When you approach change with a sense of flexibility, you can adapt to new circumstances with a sense of peace, rather than feeling thrown off course. At the end of the day, maintaining peace in a changing world is about accepting that change is a part of life, not something to fear or resist. It's about staying grounded, staying present, and choosing to respond to change with grace, rather than panic. The more you embrace change with an open heart and a flexible mindset, the more you'll realize that peace is not something dependent on stability. It's something you can create from within, no matter what's happening around you. The journey to lasting peace. As we come to the final section of this journey, it's time to reflect on something important. Peace isn't a destination, it's a practice. It's a path that you walk every single day, one step at a time, with no final finish line to cross. There is no magic moment where you suddenly arrive at perfect peace, but there are plenty of moments where you can experience deep, lasting peace, if you cultivate it and nurture it consistently. And while the journey may not always be easy or straightforward, it is entirely worth it. The journey to lasting peace is an ongoing process. It's about building small, intentional practices into your life that allow you to stay grounded, calm, and centered, no matter what happens around you. Each day is an opportunity to reconnect with that inner peace. Sometimes you'll feel like you're making great strides, and other times you'll stumble or face setbacks. But remember, peace is not about perfection. It's about progress, about continually coming back to the practice of peace, even when life tries to pull you in 100 different directions. At the heart of lasting peace is self-awareness. The more you understand yourself, the things that trigger you, the patterns that keep you stuck, the areas where you need growth, the easier it becomes to navigate life's challenges with clarity and calm. It's not about suppressing your emotions or pretending that everything is always okay. No, peace is about acknowledging your feelings, your struggles, and your discomforts, and learning to respond to them with compassion and patience. It's about embracing your humanity and giving yourself the grace to grow. You might think of peace as something you can check off a list, but in reality, it's more like breathing. Just as you don't expect yourself to stop breathing once you take a deep breath, peace isn't something that's finished once you've reached a certain point. It's something you must cultivate daily, consciously, and with intention. The more you work on it, the more it becomes a natural part of who you are. In this process, it's important to practice forgiveness, not just of others, but of yourself as well. We all make mistakes. We all have moments where we get angry, frustrated, or anxious. But true peace comes when you can forgive yourself for those moments, learn from them, and move forward without holding on to guilt or regret. When you let go of the need to be perfect, you open up space for peace to flow in, because you no longer have to be hard on yourself when you fall short. Another essential part of this journey is embracing uncertainty. Life is unpredictable. We don't know what the next day will bring. And when we resist that uncertainty, when we try to control everything, when we insist that things must go a certain way, it creates tension and anxiety. But when we learn to accept uncertainty, when we release the need to control outcomes, peace naturally follows. We become less attached to specific results and more at ease with whatever comes our way. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself on the path to lasting peace is the ability to be present in every moment. It's so easy to get caught up in the past, replaying old arguments or regrets, or to obsess over the future, worrying about what might happen, what could go wrong. But the truth is, peace is only ever found in the present moment. When you bring your full awareness to what's happening right now, you create the space for peace to fill your mind and heart. And the more you practice being present, the more peace will naturally emerge from within you. The journey to lasting peace is also about finding balance. It's about knowing when to push forward and when to rest, when to be active and when to be still. It's about recognizing that life isn't a race, it's a flow. And when you learn to move with that flow, to find your rhythm, you create an environment in which peace can thrive. You begin to realize that you don't need to chase after peace anymore. It's already there, within you, waiting for you to settle into it. But above all, the journey to peace is a journey of acceptance. It's about accepting that life is messy, that people are imperfect, that things won't always go as planned. It's about accepting that, no matter how hard you try, you won't be able to control every aspect of your life. And in that acceptance, when you finally let go of the need to control everything, peace flows in. It's in the surrender, in the letting go, that you finally find the peace you've been searching for all along. So, where do you go from here? You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need a perfect plan or roadmap to peace. The journey is the destination. Every step you take, every moment of self-reflection, every deep breath, every act of forgiveness is bringing you closer to lasting peace. Remember, peace isn't about achieving some perfect, unshakable state. It's about cultivating the ability to remain calm, centered, and balanced in the face of whatever life throws your way. As you continue on your journey, remember that peace is not a final destination. It's a way of being. It's something you create within yourself and carry with you wherever you go. So take it one day at a time, trust the process, and remember, peace isn't something you find. It's something you become.